Hello everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel, where I am getting fancier with b-roll shots of my art supplies and stuff. So today I'm going to be painting a little landscape with, as you can see, Arteza gouache. Arteza, I don't know, it doesn't matter. On these little watercolor postcards. They're just super cheap. Strathmore, I think. I just saw the footage and I forgot, but it's fine. It's just cold press. It's decent paper. But yeah, not expensive. I tried this painting already on a slightly bigger page. Look, there I am. Haha. And it didn't work out. So I decided to try again instead of giving up. And so here it is, my second attempt. I have done a painting with this gouache before, and I've messed with it in my sketchbooks a little bit. This is, I think, my 7th gouache painting ever. So I don't know what I'm doing. I just try, and usually it turns out okay. So my Turner gouache, my professional grade gouache, is much easier to use, and yet I understand the concept of if you get really good with, look, a cat, that's Drusilla. If you get really good with the cheap stuff, then you can paint with anything, and I think that goes for pretty much any kind of thing ever. And, you know, this is cheaper, and I feel better about practicing with it. So here I am. Here's my palette from my first attempt, and as you can see, there's cat hair on it. But it's fine also, and I figured I could just use it the same because, you know, it reactivates with water, which is nice. I went in with this really bright yellow, leaning orange-ish underpainting. I just like how that looks a lot, and yeah, I do think that in the future, like for areas like clouds, I will probably use either tape or maybe even masking fluid to mask out the white spots. I don't think it would be as big of a deal with professional gouache with more pigment in it, but trying to do this smooth sky gradient that I went for here was really hard. Like, the sky turned out okay. It turned out way better than it did in my first attempt, but as you can see, I'm going over my cloud area to get smooth enough strokes, and later I have trouble with layering the brighter colors on top, especially the orange that I used. For some reason, the orange and the yellow were really transparent, so for a long time I was getting this like sort of muddy green poking through, and I did not love that. So I might mask off clouds in the future or other really light areas just to make things easier and make my clouds less muddy. So yeah, Arteza gouache, I'm sure it's the same with any cheaper gouache. I've heard that this one's actually pretty decent quality, which is awesome, and I enjoy painting with it. I just do definitely notice the difference between this and my Turner gouache. It's much streakier, it's harder to get an even color tone laid down, especially on your first pass, and just getting the consistency right, I struggle, but I was determined. I'm a little out of breath today. I don't know what's going on. I didn't sleep very good. That might be part of it. But yeah, I do really like my sky better than my first attempt. I feel like the lighter bottom area going up to the darker, the gradient, turned out pretty good. And then I cover most of it up, but you know, it's fine. A lot of this video is watching me paint grass, which I guess is the next best thing to touching grass, hopefully. I don't know though, but I guess enjoy. I did a lot of tapping for this, and I actually think it looks pretty nice. I was definitely not going for realism here, so we succeeded in this not looking realistic, but looking really nice. I quite like how this little painting turned out, and it was fun. When I was realizing that the first attempt wasn't really turning out how I wanted it to, I was kind of discouraged, and so it took me a few days to really solidify my decision of whether or not I was going to start over. And when I did, I made a conscious effort to switch my attitude around, and I decided that I was gonna make a valiant attempt to finish this whole thing in one day. So I did this in 2 sittings with a lunch break in between, and I actually really enjoyed it. Like, I haven't just let myself paint for that long in a really long time. And it was nice. I'm also working on an oil painting right now, and the way I'm doing it, I can't just paint for 5 hours. I gotta let stuff dry, so it was nice to have something else while I was waiting for things to set on that painting, and to just kind of lose myself in the process for a while. And it felt really good at the end of the day to have a finished painting. Yeah. And here we see me doing super blue shadows. I do go over it, here. So I go over it a bit more because it was too blue for me, and I actually like the green layered on top of it better. I think it looks nice, and I do like the really cool shadows compared to the very warm places where the sun is hitting. And wow, just you can see here gouache drying darker with a little bit of chalkiness on it. Then it looks when it's wet. It's very much lighter when it's wet, and it is very weird to get used to. Practice. But like I said, this is like my 7th gouache painting ever. Here not now, but in a second again, going over the blue with more green to tone it down a little. But yeah, here I was thinking maybe I would do more detailed grass in the very foreground. I actually decide not to keep this later. I just feel like it didn't add to this piece, and I kind of wanted everything to look more far away, so here you see my fun attempt at this. I do think I would need some practice to do closer up grass, but you live and you learn. Cover it all up. I do fix those sticky outy blades later, I believe. And here I'm using a little special effects brush I got for Christmas in a little pack. Nothing fancy, but I thought it was nice. So much grass. Layering is kind of how you do gouache, or you can do like the poster effect. But wow, Arteza lifts quite easily, and it is an interesting experience. As you can see, I'm scared of the sky. The clouds on my first attempt were really rough for me, so I went in a little bit more intentionally here, but I was scared. Also, this Scotch Delicate Surface tape that I was very excited about is a little too delicate surface because it lifts right off the paper and doesn't stick to it super well. So it doesn't tear your paper, but it also doesn't do its job. So that's frustrating. If anyone has any tape recommendations for like watercolor and gouache, wet media, let me know. I feel like just your regular old masking tape is, I don't know, it chews up the paper and my drawing boards. This stuff is too weak and washi tape tends to be too weak. So yeah, let me know if you have suggestions. I had to retape the left-hand edge on this, and then it still didn't work. You'll see that tape side is too clean later. And there you can see the kind of blue poking through the yellow-orange and making it look green. So that's fun. But I kept at it, and I was letting it dry in between for the most part. But wow, yellow and its transparency is so much fun sometimes. So yeah, definitely gonna tape off my white areas, my cloudy areas for brighter colors and stuff, because especially yellows, they're just very see-through. I had a lot of trouble with the clouds lifting. Letting some clouds dry while I go in here with more of an orangey color onto the grass. I wanted the whole thing to look very, very warm sunlight. And I stuck pretty close to my reference, which is just an image I found on Pinterest. I did, I moved the trees closer and I made them bigger. I just wanted them to be more of a focal point than they were in the original photo. And I was not exact in my replication of said trees or the shadows in the grass. They're pretty close, but you know, I have surpassed the time in my life where directly copying exactly from a photo was my favorite thing to do. I prefer things to look slightly less perfect realism and such. But anywho, adding some super highlights to my clouds. I quite like how they're starting to look here. They're still kind of janky, but for my, I think, first attempt ever painting clouds in gouache, well, I guess it's my second attempt on an actual painting. I don't know if I've done any done any in a sketchbook. I'm not actually sure. But you know, if I did, they're not fancy at all like these ones. So this was an adventure. A huge, wild adventure. I have a lot to learn about painting clouds. This is an area where I feel like the more poster kind of effect, where you just have all of your color areas blocked out and transition, not with blending, but with subtle tone changes without overlapping them, might be easier, but more time consuming. And for a sketch like this one, I don't know if I would actually have the fortitude to spend the time to do it, but it's fine. It works out right here. They look pretty good. And now I'm going in to paint some happy little trees. I was really excited to get to this part. Like, I just felt like once I got here, I was really in the home stretch and I was feeling pleased for the most part with the painting, and also painting trees. I don't know, painting pine trees at a distance is something that just never has felt hard for me, I guess. So, yeah. I guess I have Bob Ross to thank for that. Which I'm sure many of us have things in our life we can thank Bob Ross for. And if you don't, you should reconsider your life choices, probably. Yeah, I layered the green, I think at least twice, just to make sure that it was pretty solid without too much other color showing through. A little bit I didn't mind, it just kind of didn't want it to look too, I don't know, streaky, you know. Adding a little bit of extra tree over here. So much tapping. So much tapping. And yeah, and then the layering of the trees was much easier than the clouds. And I feel like I got the colors right pretty quickly. I struggled a little with the grass. I read recently that, I think it was in Color and Light by James Gurney, which I'm reading right now, that mixing greens, that having a lot of green in a painting is off-putting for some people and challenging for the artist. I don't know why it would be off-putting. I can't remember what he said about it. I like green, but I have always found it an extremely difficult color to mix right. You have a really broad spectrum of warm and cool greens, and if they're even a little bit wrong, they look really weird. So it's a heck of a challenge. And also, you know, the whole thing where your brain's just like, oh, I know what grass looks like, and then you go in and paint it, and later you're like, that is the wrong color. So neat. But yeah, it turned out well with this grass and these trees, so I'm pretty pleased with that. My current oil painting, I have redone the grass in the background about 4 times, and I think I need to do it one more time. But I'm getting very close. I go in here and add some orange, just to make the whole thing come together nicely. Yeah. And next comes my sexy tape peel. Just for you. And that will be all, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you will subscribe and like this video, and I would love it if you left me a comment, and maybe consider joining my email list if you want updates on my work and stuff. And yeah, that's all. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I will see you in the next one. Bye!